Yeah, let me see. Um, what do we want to talk about? Maybe we skip the questions of what are perps and what problems do they solve, because I think it's quite simple to break it down into two things. Maybe there are more. So one problem they solve is they enable obviously going long and short on positions, right? And one of the other things is obviously leveraging or having access to leverage. Do you see any
Hmm.
others, any other things that perps are good for in crypto?
Um, I guess just hedging. So that's like a subset maybe of the first point. Yeah.
Okay, got it. And what is how does the current perp landscape look like? I would say generally in crypto, what are like one of the most successful ones, and then maybe break it down to Cosmos, which is probably still a very small space in terms of perps and DeFi in general.
Yeah. So I think in definitely by like this point in time in 2023, there's like it's matured a lot out of, initially it was everyone had the same sort of like central limit order book style. That was like from the original BitMEX design, right? But now it's like, yeah, most of the major centralized exchanges have it. There's like very different models between like the Oracle-based ones like GMX or like Synthetics Protocol, Apollo X, right? That are all doing, within a year, like billions of volume. So that's um, it's interesting that there's still, even with so many surfacing, the design space is very like open. That people between like, UXD, Apollo X, GMX, DYDX, and like synthetics, there's like pretty wildly different designs in certain ways. Which I guess that just comes down to like how you implement funding and actually price the assets, as long as it follows like a few key rules that like define it as a perp. It's pretty flexible, and you know, you don't have to use a club. You don't have to use base your price off of like the Oracle, things like that. But I guess more in Cosmos, I think it's like still budding. Levana has been pretty exciting in that, people have been starting to use it early. And
Right.
I also like that it's bringing like Cosmos assets in particular to be more like it's some of its most popular pairs. Normally you just see people trading like BTC and ETH in other places.
Right. So on your testnet right now, the markets that are available are Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? Those are the two assets that I saw.
Yeah, we just turned on a couple pairs for like the testnet for people to try it out, but basically it's that anything that's has a feed for the Oracle, we can like initialize a market for. So we didn't turn on these others, but I think there's like, ADA and BNB and kind of like high market cap tokens like that. We'll probably have some of those early on.
Nice, that's cool. And I mean, like what I saw in Levana, it was mostly Cosmos assets that they started with. Do you guys want to be more broad? You want to capture the broader market? Do you think that's the difference to Levana, or is it at the end of the day probably Levana and Nibiru? You both will have access to all the markets, and then there will just like other product differences and UI UX differences or something like that. Or how do you see, how do you yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
So I mean, yeah, we use different models for pricing in general. So there will always be that like difference, even with like, DYDX or Helix on Injective, Levana. Um, these are all like they're all different models, but then I guess in terms of asset diversity, yeah, we would aim for something more similar to like Gains Network over time, where, you know, of course there would be Cosmos assets, but then that wouldn't be the only focus. It'd be more kind of general purpose. So you'd include like most top assets that people want to trade, maybe from like centralized exchange or other things that people have demand on, from like, either expressing it in the community forum or what have you. And then eventually also to have like commodities and real world assets or like, um, almost like Forex pairs, things like that, I think could be really cool. Basically, so that like within IBC, you could speculate on, you know, anything you want, right? Like corn, soul, whatever.
Yeah, that's
So that's kind
that's
of a goal for us.
that's very interesting, you know, because it is a very large market just in TradFi, right? And why? So I know that Comdex initially wanted to launch those commodity markets, but they haven't done it yet. I'm not even sure why. I heard like the regulatory concerns or reasons are involved, or maybe even some other reasons. I'm not sure. How do you see that? Like, how realistic is it that Nibiru will launch commodities? Yeah, early on or this year.
I don't know if it'd be this year. I mean, right now our the main focus is just like finish up the stuff for this last phase of ITN, which is like a trading competition, and then that goes for a few weeks, and then we'll do like the main net, right? Um, pretty soon this year, and then after having that done successfully, I think we do have like quite a few features on like the roadmap. We just want to get to like improving the liquidations, um, things like that. But I don't know. I definitely think like it's basically only limited by what can we add feeds for in the price feeder. But
Okay.
yeah, the nice thing with the Oracle module is flexible enough that it is pretty easy to expand it with new assets and then add new trading pairs.
Okay, got it. Makes sense. And yeah, so you mentioned already that you plan to launch this year, right? So can you tell me the rough
Mhm.
timeline and roadmap for Nibiru? Like, is it Q4 mainnet or yeah?
Yeah, so it'd be Q4. So the if we can like if it's possible to do it in October, that'd be great. But I can, challenges with launching a mainnet. If it's like November, that's not the end of the world. But that's like roughly the timeline we're aiming at.
Right, and you probably have to do a few more audits, or is that already done? I think I saw something, but
Yeah, we did two so far. That covered most of all of the Oracle and like perps and everything. We might do like a code arena one like as a last step, just for like any new changes we had to the chain. Um, but yeah, like we went through audits already. That went pretty well.
okay, cool. No,
That was with Zelic. Yeah.
also, yeah, I actually met them recently in Atom Berlin. I didn't know that they also provide audits for Cosmos, but apparently they're active as well.